Imperialism, Asia. By adopting various ways, the European nations imposed imperialism on the Asian nations, namely India, China, Japan, Myanmar or Brahmadesh, Indonesia, Malaya, Philippines, Thailand or Siam. Imperialism in India. The Portuguese. Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese sailor, came to the Calicut port on the western coast of India via the South African peninsula in the year 1498. Vasco da Gama was allowed business concessions by King Zamorin. The Portuguese had a greater importance in the Indian politics in the initial stages. However, the Portuguese tried to propagate their religion, expand their rule and business at the same time. Therefore, they couldn't set up an empire in India. They got restricted to Goa, Diu and Daman Islands only. The Dutch. The Portuguese were followed by the Dutch in India. The Dutch too were interested in business. Thus, all that they could do was to establish their control over the Southeast Asian islands only. The French. The French began their trade in India from the year 1625. However, the French dominated Chandranagar, Pondicherry, Karaikal and Mahi. The British. With the purpose of initiating business with India, the East India Company was set up by Britain in the year 1600. When the British came to India, India was ruled by the Mughals. In 1615, the East India Company was permitted to erect a business centre in Surat by Badshah Jahangir. The policy of the company was concerned with only business in the beginning. However, the East India Company started to dabble in Indian politics as the Mughal rule began to show the signs of decline, with intra-dynasty conflicts cropping up after the death of Badshah Aurangzeb. The Karnataka Battle. Battle between England and France. In the Karnataka region, there sprung up a conflict between the bickering business affairs between England and France on the one hand and the politics at the court of the Nawab. All the first three battles fought in the Karnataka region were caused because of the rivalry between England and France. The first battle in this region was won by the French, due only to the bravery of their commander, Duplet, whereas the second battle was won by the British, as their commander Robert Clive showed greater war strategy than his French counterpart could do, and the French had to bring about a treaty at Pondicherry with England. In the third battle in the year 1760, England defeated the French army at Wandiwash in Karnataka. As a result, there came into being a commercial domination of Britain. Thus, after the defeat of the French, the imperial roots of Britain got deeper into the Indian soil. The rise of British rule in Bengal. The British victory in the Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the Battle of Buxar in 1764 paved a way for the inception of the English rule in India. The expansion of British rule in South India. In the second half of the 18th century, South India had the domination of the Nizam, Hyder Ali and the Maratha rulers. Hyder Ali was defeated by the British in collaboration with the Nizam and the Marathas. Afterwards, Tipu Sultan, the son of Hyder Ali too, was defeated. There had been three battles between the Marathas and the British between 1775 and 1818. Maharji Shinde defeated the British in the first of these battles. However, in the second battle, the British Army came off with flying colours. Finally, Bajirao II had to face defeat at the Battle of Asti at the hands of the English army, and the Maratha rule was thus conquered. The Nizam had maintained a deployment of British army under his command. It was through the deployed army that the British brought several places under their reign in India. The power expansion in Punjab. After the defeat of the Marathas, barring the Sikh reign, there had not been left even a single local rule throughout the length and width of India. It was Maharaja Ranjit Singh who organized the members of the Sikh community. The East India Company was under the threat of the Maharaja. The British could not do any damage to the Sikh reign as long as Maharaja Ranjit Singh was on the throne. The Sikh Empire had spread in the regions of Punjab, Sindh, Kashmir and areas in Pakistan. In the wake of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's death in 1839, the quarrels among the successors of the Sikh Empire became an advantage for the British. The English Empire won the vast region under the Sikh Empire between 1845 and 1849. The absolute rule of the British. Lord Dalhousie undertook the mission of merging the locally princely states into the British Raj by rejecting the adopted successors in Jhansi, Nagpur, Satara, Sambalpur, Udaipur, etc. The state of Ayodhya was merged under the pretext of maladministration there. Some other states were deprived of the periodic tributes and brought under the English Empire. Thus, in the 100 years between 1757 and 1857, England had almost the entire region of India under its total governance. The Imperialism in China. China is the biggest nation in terms of population in the Asian continent. It was considered to be a dormant nation till the second half of the 18th century. The Chinese people believed their culture to be the most superior of all the cultures in the world. It was the Manchu reign, that is between 1644 and 1911, which was held responsible for allowing a gigantic China brought under the reign of the Europeans. The Portuguese who came to China via the sea route are the first European traders there. They alighted at the Canton port of China in the year 1517. They were allowed concessions within the Canton port. Later on, the Portuguese captured the Macau port. After the Portuguese, the traders from France, England, Holland, Belgium and Russia acquired commercial concessions in China. The coastal region of China was used by them for setting up commercial centers. Nevertheless, China didn't allow anybody to interfere into its internal region for almost 200 years. The Chinese society was moduled in the ancient Confucian philosophy. The 8-point regulation announced by China imposed several restrictions on Europeans. Those who wanted to enter into China were made to bow to the Chinese emperor. In spite of the regulation, England tried hands at reconciling with China. China began earning a lot of profit by virtue of selling tea, silk, and China vessels. After the Industrial Revolution, the face of China got drastically changed. the Western goods started to sell in China. For the promotion of trade, the European traders in China established an organization named Kohang, the First Opium War. The British merchants used to sell the opium got from India in China. The Chinese government, however, was against this business. But the European business persons were not budged. The Chinese people would buy opium by exchanging silver, causing a stream of silver export to England. The First Opium War between England and China began in the year 1839. The war saw the defeat of China, compelling the Manchu Empire signing a treaty with England. It was called the Nanking Treaty, which was signed in 1842. According to the treaty, England was given the control of 4 ports along with Canton Port. England won the Hong Kong Island. Taking advantage of this development, in the following 10 years, America, France, Belgium, Holland, Portugal, and Russia sought commercial concessions from China. The Second Opium War. In 1856, England and France fought the Second Opium War against China and defeated the Manchu Emperor. The Peking Treaty was signed, which opened 6 Chinese ports for the foreign traders and Christian religious missionaries. However, on the downside, the opium business started growing in China. In 1860, Russia attacked and won the Amur seacoast of China. Japan too fought and won a portion of China in 1894-95. The division of the Chinese watermelon. The imperial European nations acquired various commercial concessions from China. The economic domination of China by these nations can be seen as follows. 1. England controlled the business and excise of China. 2. France had the Chinese postal service under its authority. 3. Chinese railways were dominated by Europe. China was divided under the power sectors of the imperial nations. This has been known as the division of the Chinese watermelon. America had an understanding that, like the African continent, China would be divided. The open door policy. America came out with its open door policy in 1899 with the intentions of avoiding the actual political division of China and taking financial advantage. All imperial nations supported this policy of equal rights for all nations to trade in China. However, Russia refused and China remained undivided. The imperialism in Japan. Japan, located to the far east of Asia, is widely known as the land of rising sun. All the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the Dutch people did business with Japan from the 16th century. They were expelled when they attempted to spread Christianity. It closed its doors for the European nations for 150 years and became a recluse nation. America was highly interested in Japan for its commercial value. In 1852, Commodore Matthew Perry, the chief of the American Naval Mission to Japan, came to the Gulf of Edo in 1853. he requested the Japanese government to allow American ships within the marine boundaries of Japan along with business concessions. The Kanagawa Treaty. Considering the extent and strength of Perry's navy, the then Japanese Prime Minister Tokugawa Shogun signed a business agreement with America on 31st March 1854 at Kanagawa. According to this agreement, 1. America was allowed entry into the Shimonda and Hakodate ports for procuring wood, coal, and water. 2. American envoy could stay in Japan. 3. The American sailors in distress should be given Japanese assistance. 4. America was allowed to do business in Japan by the local rules and regulations. In this way, the non-aligned status of Japan came to an end and the decline of Tokugawa shogun began. England, France, Russia, and Holland were also interested in Japan. They made Japan realize its weaknesses and their modern power and thus prepared to exploit Japan. It was during this period that the unrestrained shogun governance was subverted by the Meiji Revolution. Japan modernized itself by drastically changing the economic, political, and social fields, seeking motivation from the scientific and artistic development with which the European nations had defeated Japan. After modernizing itself, Japan endured the policy of imperial expansion. On the one hand, it made an announcement that Asia was for the people of Asia and Japan for the Japanese, and on the other, with a view to imperial expansion, it defeated the powerful nations like China and Russia and annexed regions belonging to China. Japan brought Korea and Formosa under its empire. Japan, the nation which was a victim of imperialism, became a powerful imperial nation in Asia.